intimacy, love, dating, marriage, romance, companionship, and breakup. Everything is on the table. It's Relationship Theory with Tina Laws.
Welcome to Relationship Theory, where we talk about all things relationships and no topic is off limits. I'm Tina Laws, your host for today, and today we have in our studio Mr. and Mrs. Powerhouse Academy. So I'm going to turn it over to Mrs. Powerhouse before we get into Mr. Powerhouse on the topic of what happens when your significant other decides to choose entrepreneurship over a full-time job.
And I am Kima Perry, founder of Powerhouse Academy. In June of 2019, I decided to take my big leap of faith, walk away from my 22-year career as a teacher, and really run Powerhouse Academy full-time. Powerhouse Academy is a virtual school for women, mostly women over 40, who feel stressed out, who feel overwhelmed, and who are ready to take ownership of their life. And so I help them to shift their mindsets and write their own stories so they can do more of what they want to do when they want to do it and feel free.
Thank you. Thank you. So today, as we're talking about entrepreneurship, I wanted to raise a great awareness around entrepreneurship from the women's perspective and from the husband's perspective. We often see husbands taking the leap of faith and earning businesses, but very seldom do we see couples that are functioning, happy couples that are surviving entrepreneurships after being an employee for 20-something years. What was your thought when Kima decided, because she already decided, when she came here and said, Darren, you know what? I'm ready to quit. I'm just done. I'm ready to take this leap of faith and just grow Powerhouse Academy. What was your initial thought?
My initial thought, after 20 years of marriage, she's finally lost her mind. I'm like, you have to be kidding me, right? She's like, no, I'm ready. And as we discussed it and talked about it, we actually met, a little short story, we actually met in the school system. So I actually met her in the classroom. She was a school teacher at the time. We dated all throughout that period when she was still a teacher. I was a physio assistant, so our relationship began in the class. And every time I would come to see her, it was either late in the evening, she was still in the class. On the weekends, that was part of our relationship, was being in the classroom. In fact, I actually had to propose to her in the classroom because she spent so many hours
In the classroom.
And I always said to her, I said, Kima, if you were in the corporate world, you would make tons of money. And if the education system had to pay you for the hours you'd put in, they couldn't afford you, quite honestly. But initially I was a little fearful and skeptical, but we always talk things out. And I said, you know what, you're right. If you're going to do it, let's do it for us.
Right. Okay.
So I just want to jump in here because the initial plan was for me to resign in 2024. That was my year. And I just had this calling, like, do it now. And with all the transitioning that are happening now in the education system, I came home one day, I was totally in tears because I was like, oh, these grading, all these different things that are now expected of teachers. And I came home and I was like, bawling. And I said, this is it. I'm walking away.
And I still didn't think she was actually going to do it. I'm like, she just had a bad day. It's all right. We'll get beyond it.
So what was your greatest fear when she mentioned that to you from a man's perspective? Because I know as women, we think things through, but we learn them as we go through. For man, they need to know that everything is like...
Yeah, I'm pretty practical and logical. So I was like, Kima, this doesn't make any sense. I mean, let's build a bigger nest egg before, She's like, no, I'm ready. And she kept saying, I'm gonna put in my resignation. I'm gonna put it in, and I'm like, okay, she's really serious because I was okay with the 2024 plan. Right. Actually, she didn't tell even 2024 or in my mind 2022. I'm like, okay, we're getting close, and then she's like, I'm doing it this year. I'm like,
in a few months.
Okay. And this was probably just after Christmas. I don't remember when it was.
It was like
but
February.
Yeah.
So as it relates to entrepreneurship, we know it's a lot of work. You know it too because you're on the other end of us. But at what point in the relationship, in your marriage, did you say, you know what, this is becoming a challenge, or has it become a challenge?
It was never a challenge because, as I said earlier, we met. Her work ethic is second to none. So we met under the circumstances. I knew it was a given. Nights, weekends, holidays, summer, no matter what it was, there were long hours.
You knew that when she told you she was going to become an entrepreneur and quit this job, you knew what it entailed.
I not only knew, I expected. I said, you know what, she's going to work twice as hard, put in twice as many hours. But it actually hasn't worked out that way. It's actually given us more freedom and more time together, to be honest with you. Really.
Thank you. And on that note, we'll be right back.
Relationship Theory. We'll be right back after these messages.